The 2026 roster is set going into spring football for the Ragin Cajuns. Let's break it all down here on Ragin Rundown. What's good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into another episode here on Ragin Rundown, the show where you know everything you need to about UL sports all in one place. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick, but you know you can always call me Fitz. Before we get rolling, do a quick favor for me. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like button, share this video, and drop a comment below. It might seem small, but it goes a long way in helping this channel to grow and getting Ragin Cajuns content in front of more fans just like you. And if you're listening on the podcast side, make sure you follow the feed, rate the show, and leave us a review as well. That support helps more than you know, and it keeps things moving forward. And in today's episode, or tonight's episode, as I'm recording this at 11:23 on February the 4th, which is a Wednesday, and it's also National Signing Day. The December signing period means a lot more than now here in February because most of the guys are already signed. You're more so now just announcing the full class with the transfer portal that's factored in and things of that nature. And so the roster for the Ragin Cajuns is nearly complete, and I have a complete list of all the signings that, shout out to Matt Sullivan, getting it all printed out for us. And I know they have graphics on their social media accounts, but I'll rattle them off to you so you can have a chance to hear them. Alex Munoz, the Turlins quarterback, and Drake Perry, the offensive lineman. Those pair also signed here on Wednesday. But then you also have in the high school ranks, you have Warren Easton, offensive lineman David Baker, Plaquemine safety Rod Bingham. You have Slidell tight end Jerry Birdlow. You have W.S. Neal, offensive lineman Michael Bowens Jr., that's from Alabama. Zachary wide receiver Christian Brooks. You have St. Aug's Ty Dominic. You have Oak Grove linebacker Devin Franklin, who is also a mid-year enrollee. You have JaVale Fredericks, an offensive lineman from Daphne, who's also a mid-year enrollee. You have Mason Golding, a punter from Australia, who is also a mid-year enrollee. You have Gunnar Goodwin, who's an offensive lineman from Mississippi, Kossuth High School. I'm not sure on that one. I don't know where it is, but he is an offensive lineman from Mississippi. You have Luke Green, who's a safety here from Lafayette Christian. You have Julius Harper, that is from Jefferson Davis County out of Mississippi. Or he's a corner, Harrison Kidder, who's a linebacker from Catholic High of Baton Rouge. Jaden Michael, who's an offensive lineman from Lutcher. Jordan Pennick, who's a defensive lineman from U-High in Baton Rouge. Jaden Reed is a safety from Neville. Trey Shaw is an offensive lineman from Oak Grove in Mississippi, who is also a mid-year enrollee. Keyrion Smith, the guy that we've talked about a bunch on this episode, the running back from Holy Cross. Jackson Villaume, long snapper from Parkview Baptist. Braylon Walker is the corner from Lafayette Christian. Xavier Waters from North Shore out of Houston, a defensive lineman. He is a mid-year enrollee. And then Edric Williams, the safety from Daphne, is also a mid-year enrollee. Your portal class, we've talked about these guys a ton. You have 5 portal signees. That is Tito Shakiri, the transfer from East Texas A&M. Princeton Malbrew, the transfer linebacker from LSU. Jace Mitchell from Tulane, the offensive lineman. Anthony Reagan, the transfer running back from Howard. And then Broderick Stewart, who is a defensive lineman, an interior D lineman from Tarleton State. So that now brings your total to 29 players that you have signed, that you have now brought into your program. And previously, what you had lost is 20 seniors that have graduated. You signed 24 high school players. You have 5 portal signees. You have 9 guys that you lost in the portal. That is Carter Milleron, the long snapper, goes to Florida. Charles Robertson, the receiver, goes to Southern. Walker Howard, the quarterback, goes to Ole Miss. Brian Williams goes to Arkansas. Trey Fight goes to UTSA. Zylan Perry and Bill Davis, 2 running backs, go to Cincinnati and Virginia Tech, respectively. And then Hutch Swilly and Lorenzo Dubose both go to Miami State. So everything pretty much seems to balance out. That's what you're bringing into your program on top of the guys that you have returning. Coach Desormeaux got a chance to speak with us, the working media, at my day job of KETC, and he talked about the new players that are coming in. He answered a few questions about some of the transfer portal guys. But one of the big things that really stood out to me, and, I've talked about this at nauseum in a bunch of different episodes, that Coach Des is not focused on getting the best roster that money can buy. His philosophy is going to find the best players in the high school rankings, bringing them here because they want to play for the Ragin Cajuns, developing them, and being able to build something. That way, when you lose a handful of guys, because they're not losing a ton, when you do lose those guys, you have players that are willing and ready to step up and fill those gaps. And, I asked Coach Des, why has he been so adamant about staying the course, and why has he not wavered in the way things are? And he gave a very long answer to that. I want you to hear it fully so you can get into the mindset and understand this is the type of coach and what he's trying to build for this program, and what he believes is something, and also that I truly think is something that can be sustainable for this program.
I believe that I've seen it, and I believe that it's real. And, just to be honest with you, there are things that restrict you from being able to recruit the portal. And I'm not, y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, the portal is money grab, and it's hard to find ones that are not just looking for money, and it's hard to find. I mean, that's just what it is. So you can still get really high quality high school kids that are picking places because it's where they want to be. And, you got to believe in your plan for development. You got to believe in your ability to retain them through relationships, through financial means, which we do have and we've been able to do. And certainly through, them seeing the value in being at that place and seeing their development continue on the track they want to see it on.
So like I've said before, I know a lot of people will look and say, man, we have to go into the transfer portal more. But if you don't have the spots available to be able to, go and get guys, going and just adding players to be adding them in the portal is one thing. You're almost needing to go in there for your needs. They felt like with their staff that they went out and they filled those needs. And now they have a roster. I think Coach Des mentioned that they have maybe 2 spots remaining that they can finagle with a little bit in case anything happens in spring football, where they can go and maybe get a guy and sign him in June, bring him in during fall camp, and get him ready to play for the season. But it's been important for him to continue to recruit guys out of high school. On social media, you can see where they're, already recruiting now for the class of 2027, turning the page now, and then getting closer to spring football as those dates do inch closer. You would have had 10 guys to leave due to the transfer portal, but one of them decided to come back, which was Fitzgerald West, the Lafayette Christian defensive lineman that transferred in from LSU a couple years ago. He initially entered the transfer portal, and I talked about this in a previous episode. Me and him, talked offline multiple times as, he kept me in the loop with a lot of the conversations that he was having with other teams, and he did receive offers to go to other schools. But ultimately for him, as he kind of thought more about it, it made more sense to stay close to home where his family could watch him play in his last year of college football, not moving halfway across the country or moving somewhere where you may not even get a chance to play. And now you burn a year at a place where you were happy and were playing. And so he ultimately decided to come back. And some people were excited about it. Some people felt that he shouldn't have been let back because it sets a precedence of, if you want to go out there and see what's happening, then you can always come back home. And I get that. But there are a lot of other nuances that are happening behind the scenes. And like I said, I talked with a lot of these guys that entered the portal from the Cajuns because I cover them on a day-to-day basis. So I talked with a lot of them through the process. And, there are things that go on behind the scenes that Coach Des doesn't say out publicly. I would never say them out publicly because these guys intricately trust me with this information that they're telling me a lot of times. But it's a dirty game out there sometimes on both sides. There are some coaches out there that are simply wanting to be transactional. And then there are agents that are also trying to get all that they can out of it and leaving some of these kids out high and dry. I asked Coach Des about why it was so important to get Fitzgerald West back? And was that an example of those relationships that he talked about of being cultivated, of was the reason why Fitz ultimately came back?
You know, there are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that people are never really going to fully understand. And, you know, I don't get in here and complain because that's just, I mean, it's pointless. I don't believe in that. But you hear a lot of these things going on right now. It's worse than what comes out in the media, is what I would say. And the problem with it is, it's one thing if you're going to try to get a kid to go in, you know, and you're going to come through and do your part and do what you said you're going to do. It's a whole nother thing when you do that and then you don't come through on your end. That's the biggest issue I have with the stuff that happens behind the scenes. I mean, you know, that's the, you know, you're just screwing these kids over in a lot of ways that where, you know, you're promising them something and it doesn't happen. And then what are they left with? You know, we were fortunate that we had a spot. And I, you know, and I told him that it wasn't like he's the first person I've taken back that went in. I love Fitz to death. I know he wants to be here. I understand what happened, and I'm not going to get into all that, but I was glad he wanted to come back, and I was glad we had a spot for him, you know, and that's kind of, you know, the thing is, and like I told him, he can be an advocate for our team and saying always what it looks like.
The last thing I'll discuss in terms of football before we shift gears and talk a little bit of hoops, there were two also coaches that were added, or not necessarily added, but there were some shifts in the staff. You know, Matt Bergeron, the former running backs coach, moved on and is now the offensive coordinator at Southeastern. He wanted the opportunity to be able to call plays, and now he's able to do that with Frank Selfo down there in Hammond, Louisiana, getting closer to home and all of those good things like that. You replace him now with Marcus Lovings, who was at Arkansas State previously, but in years past had coached at your program back in the days when it was Mark Hudspeth that was the head coach. Coach Des talked very, very highly of him. I did talk about him in a previous episode that you can go and check out as well to give a more deep dive about him. But then also there was another position that was shifted. You know, your analyst or quarterbacks coach that you had, Caden Minton, who is a Morgan City native, moved to a more off the field role as your director of player personnel. I've talked about that in a previous episode as well that you can check out. But just briefly, Cade's job as that director of player personnel is kind of being that buffer for Coach Des and finding some of those players that fits the mold of what he's looking for a certain position or a certain skill set and all of those things like that. And then he funnels them back to the coaching staff so they can be able to, you know, evaluate them and all of those different aspects like that. And for Cade, you know, he is extremely young. I think he's only been out of high school for like 8 or 9 years, not much, you know, further away removed than what I am out of high school as well. And so in his short time and being around the game of football at the collegiate level, he was a grad assistant with the LSU Tigers from 2019 to 2021. So he was a part of that run when they won the national championship. That's where tight ends coach for UL currently, George Munoz, saw him there. And when they came here to UL, he brought him with him in 2022. He went to Buffalo in 2023 and then came back and has been here ever since. So he's now moved to the off the field role, being in the more administrative role behind the scenes and trying to build out rosters on a day-to-day and year-to-year basis. Coach Des talked about Cade and the job that he did in the portal window, and he also talked about Coach Lovings and what he could do for this running back room coming up in 2026.
I've watched the quality of Cade's work for a long time here, you know, not making a lot of money, not getting a lot of credit, but certainly not caring about any of it. You know, the quality of his work and the effort that he puts into it made it really a no-brainer. I wasn't sure if he'd want to go into the personnel side of things. I was very grateful that he had. You know, he took over as a director of player personnel about the worst timing and that you can possibly have it, you know, right before signing day. Not before signing day, right before the transfer portal opens. And when I tell you the guy hit the ground running, I mean, it was impressive to see. I mean, the time that he spent up here, you know, the intent behind the work that he did, the diligence, the organization of it all was excellent. And fortunately, I got to witness that firsthand, you know, for 3 years and see him work that way. So, it wasn't a hard decision to make. It was, more concerned whether or not he'd want to get in that world or not. And he's been fantastic. I mean, organized while we're on the road in January, going recruiting high school kids. He was great, keeping all that stuff updated, keeping records. I mean, I'm really excited about Cade, and he's gonna hit a home run. He's a home run for us. And Coach Lovings, I mean, he's someone who from when I first got here, I met Marcus whenever right when HUD hired him as a GA from Mississippi State, and first time I met him, it was like, man, this guy's sharp. I mean, he's on top of it. There's not many guys that can coach D-line or running backs, Marcus could probably coach just about anything you want him to coach. I mean, he's a sharp dude, knows football. He's someone that, getting to work with him as an assistant, he's fiercely loyal. Saw that firsthand. He is a team first guy. Do anything you ever need him to do for the team, whatever you ask him to do. He knows his job and he does it really, really well. He always works for more, which is what you want in your building. And, the last, five NFL running backs that he evaluated, recruited, signed, and really developed most of them, speaks for itself. We've got a really good young running back room. He is going to be outstanding for that room. I've seen it. I know how much he demands from him, but God, I know how much he cares about him too. I was really excited whenever Coach Lovings decided that he was going to come back over here. And, to me, I love people that want to be here. And the phone call with Coach Lovings, when I called him and, said, look, I have a running back's job that's open. He's like, when you need me there. It didn't ask about money, about what it pays. Didn't ask this is what I make here. He's like, I want to come back. I want to come help you. I want to come back to Lafayette. I want to be a part of this. And I'm grateful for those things because he's done a great job everywhere he's been. Track record speaks for itself. And I'm certainly happy he's in our locker room now.
So now the only thing left is now to count down the days until week 1 of the college football season for Louisiana. But before they get an opportunity to pop some pads against someone else, they'll do it against each other in spring football as they announce the 15 practice dates that they will have. Those dates are as followed. March the 17th, that is a Tuesday, and they practice Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, alternating. So they'll go the 17th, the 19th, the 21st, 24th, 26th, 28th, 31st. And then April the 2nd, they'll have a week off for spring break. They come back April the 14th. That is that Tuesday. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, April the 14th, 16th, 18th, 21st. They double up and go 23rd and 24th. Those will probably be lighter practices because then on April 25th is their annual Vermilion and White spring game. And that is when we will all have an opportunity to see them in game action. Us as the working media, in the years that I've been covering the Ragin Cajuns, we have a short window to be able to watch them practice. And most of the time, it's just individual period where they're doing routes on air, bag drills, different things like that, individual position group drills. So we don't get a whole lot of an opportunity to see much more than what you guys do. So the spring game could be an opportunity the first time that we see them. Potentially, if Coach Des will allow us to peel behind the curtain and maybe just watch a little bit of practice, that would be great. But we'll see. We'll see. So the Ragin Cajuns now march forward, looking forward to spring football. I'm going to take a quick time out, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the men's basketball team and the electric win that they were able to pick up on the road against James Madison when we come back here on Ragin Rundown. The Louisiana men's basketball team were coming off of back-to-back wins before they hit the road this week and firstly played a game against James Madison on Wednesday night, and then they will come back home to play in the MAC Sunbelt Challenge and will play against Central Michigan on Saturday. But they were able to pick up a huge 64-61 victory over James Madison on the road. That now brings their streak of wins to 3 in a row. And this was just a game where they were able to prove how resilient they could be. The box score looks very clear of type of players that we are used to seeing. The normal suspects are guys that are standing out. Dorian Finister was your leading scorer with 18 points. He also had a big shot that I'm going to talk about in just a second. He was 8 of 17 from the field, 1 of 3 from the three-point line. That one three-pointer would be huge for them. Devion Laverne had 14 points. Off the bench, you had Darius Woodson to contribute 14 points as well. He was 4 or 5 from three-point range. Kyron Ratliff had 6 points for you in 12 minutes of play, hitting 2 big three-pointers as well. Jackson Villaume had 7. Todd Jones Jr. had 4. And I think that was it in terms of main guys that scored. Michael Collins added a point there. But those were your normal suspect of guys that we're used to seeing kind of taking the reins and scoring. Dorian Finister is continuing to come on as a prolific scorer. Devion Laverne, I've seen what he did in high school at North Central, but he is truly coming into his own at the collegiate level as a combo guard. So in the game, Louisiana played against the Dukes extremely closely. And funny enough, this was also the night that former Ragin Cajuns and now James Madison football head coach Billy Napier was kind of introduced to the fan base. So he was in attendance for this game. And it was a very close one in the first half. The Ragin Cajuns trailed 32-29 at recess. And then they came right out of half and went on a 15-1 run. And they took a 44-33 lead at the 14-minute mark. Basketball is a game of runs. So obviously James Madison was not going to just let that slide. So they come back with an 11-0 run of their own. They tie it up at 44 apiece at the 9:43 mark. And so from there, things kind of stay close for pretty much the remainder of the game. And then you get down to about the 2 or 3 minute mark when it was still a very close ball game. As I'm scrolling down the play-by-play so I can tell you exactly what plays were happening at that time. Jackson Villaume hit a three-pointer at the 5:42 mark. And then Cliff Davis made a layup there that made it 56-55. It would eventually be 58-56. That's at the 3-minute mark. At the 2-minute mark, 2:10 mark, Eddie Ricks III makes a free throw that makes it 58-57 Cajuns with the lead. And then Christian Brown makes a dunk. I believe it was a putback that he had on an offensive rebound that made it 59-58. Darius Woodson comes down, buries a three-pointer, one of those 4 big ones that he had. Now it's 1 minute and 1 second left. James Madison takes a timeout. And then after that, you see Eddie Ricks III make a tip-in off an offensive rebound, something that happened a lot throughout this game, second chance opportunity. So now it's 61 all with 35 seconds remaining. The Ragin Cajuns have an opportunity to try to put something together. They go down, and Jackson Villaume is doing his thing offensively with the ball, and I believe they got an offensive rebound there on that possession. Yes, it was Darius Woodson got the offensive rebound on that possession after Devion Laverne missed a jumper there. Darius Woodson gets a rebound, and he kicks it out. The ball eventually ends up in the hands of Dorian Finister, and he buries a three-pointer with 1 second remaining, and that would ultimately be the game winner. And like I've mentioned multiple times before, this team, as rough as it's been early on, they have continued to fight and not quit, and now they find themselves on a 3-game win streak. And now they are back at 500 in conference play at 6-6 in conference, 8-16 overall. And like I said, winners of their last 3. Coach Q talked about the victory after the game, and here's what he had to say.
Coach, what an amazing finish. How proud of you are of your guys tonight?
I can't put it into words. I'm super proud of this team. The injuries, all that we've been through, losing 11 straight games. This team is resilient. I'm extreme. This is my favorite team that I've been a part of. And it's because of everything that they've been through. They just overcame it. Love those guys. Super proud of them.
And Coach, when I talked to you at the half, you said you wanted your guys to get a better control of the ball, and you guys did that. What changed in that locker room to lead you guys to this win?
Well, these guys have just stuck together the entire year. And I told them we needed to do a good job on the glass, and we need to limit our turnovers. And those guys are coachable. They're high-character guys. And, that's what you get when you have guys that stick together and keep fighting.
And walk me through that last play.
Well, the last play when James Madison had the ball, just wanted to make sure that I put our tallest guy on the ball, make it hard for them to inbound it. And Ty Jones did a great job, and the other 4 guys on the floor did a great job of communicating.
So now you have 7 games remaining on your schedule, 6 of them being in Sunbelt play. Obviously, the one on Saturday will be in the MAC Sunbelt Challenge against Central Michigan. And I'm not privy to what they are doing exactly on that team. But in terms of the Sunbelt, after that game, you will play against Coastal Carolina, who's now 7-6 in league play. They are 14-11. So that is a very winnable game for you there. After that, you play against Old Dominion, who is 4-8 in the league, 7-17 overall. So that is, again, a very winnable game for you once again. You got Arkansas State, so that will be a tough one that you'll have to battle with, even though they are sitting at 6-6 there in conference play, but they're still a really good basketball team. Texas State is there in the mix as well, sitting at 7-6 in conference play. And then you run into Troy, and you have to go there to Troy. And right now, Troy is sitting atop the league, 9-3 in conference, 16-8 overall, and they are 7-3 at home. That will be a true test for you to see how far you've come along. There's no telling what kind of streak of wins you could be on potentially, or what you'll be coming off of at that point. And then you close out the regular season against Arkansas State once again when you travel there. So you have Arkansas State coming to you first on February the 19th, and then you head to Arkansas State on the 27th on a Friday to round out the regular season. So there's a very good chance that if the cards fall for you in the right way, you could potentially finish out this run 5-2 and to close out the season, which in terms of an overall record at that point, now you're talking about being 13 and math is hard, 13-18 to close out the year, and 11-8 on the end of the season. Well, 6 of those games would be conference. So that would be 4-2, maybe 5-1, or however that shakes in those last couple of runs. So maybe 11 wins in the conference. There's no telling where that could position you from a seeding standpoint. Based on everything that has happened, the injuries that you've had, Josh Lewis going out for the year, Jamiron Keller, Sean Elkington, Karis Bilal being out early, I would say getting a double-digit win season would be exactly what the doctor has ordered in this situation. So as that thing as it continues to develop, words are hard and it's late, but as things continue to develop, we will absolutely continue to keep our eyes on it here on Ragin' Rundown. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much. Thank you for bearing with me as words are hard, as I've said again. If you made it to this point in the video, do me a favor and hit the like button, share this video, and drop a comment below, because that helps us to continue to grow this channel and get this in front of other Ragin' Cajun fans just like yourself. If you're listening on podcast, please go ahead and follow the podcast feed, rate the show, and leave us a review as well, so you know what's going down here on Ragin' Rundown. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick. We'll see you guys next time.